My name's Mark. I'm a trainee clinical scientist for the NHS in Portsmouth, and we really need to talk about this upcoming general election regarding the National Health Service. As we know, that the NHS is basically being used as a political football between the two major parties, the Labour and the Conservatives. And it's arguably as well the most important issue of the campaign, whatever people might tell you, because it's regarding all our futures. We need the NHS to remain free at the point of need, so that no one can undergo the barbaric treatment of sick people who can't afford to pay for healthcare in countries like the United States. The problem is that us NHS workers, we think it will soon be like that. We know it's already happening on an ever increasing scale. So on the next couple of days before the general election, I'm going to be discussing which election outcome would be best for the NHS. So the EU consists of the single market, the customs union, and the European Court of Justice. They're the three main components of it. Now, Johnson claims that he will be able to make a new deal by 2020, and if no deal is agreed by then we just drop out without a deal. So Johnson's form of Brexit indicates that we leave all three of the above. This would mean that Britain is able to strike up trade deals with anyone that it wants, but we'd lose all our current trade deals as well. So the EU Singapore Free Trade Agreement started in 2009. Goods and services negotiations were completed in 2012, and then investment protection negotiations were completed in 2014. The deal wasn't finalised by the EU Council until the 21st of November 2019. And considering that Singapore has a much smaller economy than ours and a lot fewer people, surely that indicates that that's an easier deal to negotiate than with the UK. So Boris Johnson couldn't get Brexit done within a year, could he, realistically? At Queen Alexandra Hospital, my medical physics department, if we left the customs union, would not be able to import radioactive materials at anywhere near the speed that we need them. Radioactive materials decay exponentially, and therefore that means that we need to import them quickly and from nearby, in this case from General Electric in Germany and Curium in the Netherlands. Now, with the introduction of World Trade Organization style border checks and tariffs, this would be completely impossible, and exporting from elsewhere using air transportation will result in much higher costs for my NHS department. Another factor I would need to talk about is completely leaving the single market would cause the end of freedom of movement and working rights for up to 25% of NHS staff who are European. The NHS would have nowhere near enough time to replace all the, say, nurses that we would lose. And considering that Boris Johnson's election promises 50,000 nurses, where 18,000 to 19,000 of them turned out to be nurses that work for the NHS already, and he's going to stop them from leaving. So this type of Brexit is known as a hard Brexit, the type of Brexit which the Conservative Party wants, and leaving all three of the EU components that I mentioned earlier. Leaving the European Union with a soft Brexit, single market, customs union options, not all doom and gloom. Leaving the European Court of Justice would allow Britain to evade things like EU copyright laws, in which case they could potentially not have to legally abide by drug patents, which can last for up to 20 years. And so therefore could potentially lead to the UK manufacturing its own generic versions of medicines and producing them for a lot cheaper than under those current EU patents. From an NHS perspective, it is possible to leave the EU, stay in the single market and the customs union, thus being able to import all the supplies that we need and get all the foreign workers that potentially could fill vacancies, whilst also departing from the European Court of Justice to allow us to evade those anti-competition laws and copyright laws. this is what the Labour Party want. They do want to respect the result of the referendum. Vote Labour. It's better for the NHS again.